Hey there guys, I am the Six Machine and welcome back to another Warhammer video. So just a slightly different video today. We got a little tease from the Warhammer community yesterday about two new awesome upcoming Praetor models for the Imperial Fists Legion for the Horus Heresy series. For those of you that don't know, Praetors are a Heresy exclusive unit which essentially act as the main HQs and captain equivalent for marine armies in 40k. They usually take the role of leader of a force and bring some very strong melee capabilities to your heresy army. And I think whilst they were no doubt wanting to preview these anyway, this is just a nice little indicator and bit of reassurance perhaps from GW that no, heresy is not dead, and despite the moaning and complaining of quite a number of people, I do think there is going to be some very big heresy news in the next year or so, which I think will make a lot of people, myself included, very happy indeed. But it's nice they're still showing off these new models, even if it isn't at quite the pace that I think a lot of people would like to see. But in any case, discussions about heresy and the support that GW is giving it and what it's going to be like in the future is for another video. For the video today, I wanted to do a little bit of a fun exercise and run through the regular non-terminator, non-named Legion Praetors which are currently available, and go through from worst to best which I think are the coolest. It's just a bit of fun, so feel free to disagree and tell me your favourite in the comments below, but if you think my list is completely wrong and you think the model that I've chosen as my favourite is actually the worst, this is all just my personal opinion, so don't get too hung up on it. Just let me know your favourite in the comments below, because I would love to see what people think is the coolest one from their point of view. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. Now, I make 8 Legion Praetors which are available at the moment, again not including the Terminator armoured ones, which I may cover in another video, and you can see on your screen now the lot of them. And I honestly do think that they all are at least very good. None of them are, in my opinion, outright bad, but of course we are ranking them from worst to best, and there does of course have to be a last place. So let's jump straight to the generic Legion Praetor. You might have guessed this, he is just a little bit boring. There's nothing wrong with the model per se, and he fits well as a stoic overseeing the battle style HQ choice, but he just doesn't have anything else going for him. His pose isn't super dynamic, his weapons look really plain, and even his armor is pretty much completely bare, which I guess in a sense makes sense. He's intended for any legion to be able to use him as a Praetor, so they have to make him fit in with the wide range and style of all the legions. So he does definitely fit this purpose. It's just unfortunately something that makes him really unexciting to look at. Up in 7th position, we have the White Scars Legion Praetor. Now, some of you may think I'm crazy with this. Compared to the generic Praetor, he has a much more detailed style of armor. His head is very White Scars-esque, and his pose is more dynamic, and even the weapon is massively changed from the usual sword that you see on a lot of other HQ choices, including some of the later Legion Praetors. So why is he so low? Well, I'll be honest with you, I really just don't feel that running pose very much. It really doesn't look fast or wild enough to me. I always kind of think that it looks like he's skipping towards the enemy rather than charging towards them, and even his face, as cool as the eye patch and the moustache is, just doesn't fill me with that wild, murderous intent and battle lust that I would expect to see on a White Scars character. He looks far too calm and, again, like he's out for just a pleasant stroll rather than rushing headlong into battle. Coming in at the number 6 spot is the newly shown off Imperial Fists Praetor. I love the helmet, the plume, the cross symbol. I just really don't like his pose. To me, it looks like he's about to trip up on that rock in front of his left foot, and although I know he's not, he's merely striding forward, I just can't help but see it whenever I look at him. And his sword is, whilst possibly fitting for an Imperial Fist, just a little bit plain and a little bit boring for me. My other big complaint about him is that I think he's just a tiny bit too busy in his chest area. Between the robes, the Imperial Fist symbol on the chest, the embossed 7 on his armor plate covering his stomach, and then what appears to be two really huge clunky armor plates on his hips. I just think there is a hell of a lot going on. And then on top of that, you have the leather straps connecting it all together, the Aquila on the chains dangling down as well. And I just think that overall, this whole middle section just screams a bit too much, in my opinion, and really detracts from the model overall. And now things are starting to get difficult because, as I said, honestly, I do like all the Praetors that are available at the moment, but all of the remaining Praetors in the list so far, I genuinely like. It's really hard to rank them all because I do like them all, and there aren't too many things that are outright wrong with them, like I think there are with the Imperial Fists one and the White Scars one and the generic one. This is just going to be a case of which ones I think look the absolute coolest. And so, unfortunately, the number 5 spot is going to have to be taken by a model that I think is actually going to be a lot of people's favorite Praetor model, and that is the Blood Angels Praetor. The armor is just fantastic on this model, and the mixture of the red and gold just blends together so nicely. He has some genuinely awe-inspiring trim all across his armor, which really does make him stand out on the battlefield, and the little golden halo and even his pure white cloak just give him this truly angelic, glorious look about him. Likewise, his sword, whilst a relatively plain power sword, has that gorgeous Blood Angel's hilt with the wings and the blood drop motif. So why is he at number 5? It's honestly just his pose. That's the main thing here that in my books lets it down. I just think it feels a bit slow, a bit too methodical for a Blood Angels character. And funnily enough, if it was slightly better balanced, I actually think that the more action-surged pose of the Imperial Fists that we saw previously would fit this Praetor much better, giving him that element of charging out and really reaching forward as fast as possible to catch his enemy and swing into them. For me, the pose that the Blood Angels Praetor has and the way he's holding his sword as he walks forward, it kind of makes me feel like he's more on a parade ground than a battlefield. I would really like to see this Praetor with a more meaningful stride, as if he's stepping forward with clear intent and purpose to strike and kill his enemies. And with that in mind, at the number 4 spot, we have Alfarius himself, or at least someone calling himself Alfarius, the Alpha Legion Praetor. And now, this may just have something to do with the fantastic paint scheme, but I adore this model. It is such a cool looking paint job, and I absolutely love the scales on the chest piece and on the left leg. The sword is incredibly unique in its design, although I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure how it gets in and out of the sheath, but hey, that doesn't matter. What matters is that it's cool. And even his helmet has that incredibly menacing, almost reverse shark fin style, which just makes him genuinely intimidating as he carries out that absolutely badass stride forwards, looking like he's just about to, draw his sword and cut his enemy in half. For me, that adds so much more depth and malice to the character in just that slightly wider, longer stride compared to, say, the Blood Angels Praetor. If you look at it side on, it really does look like he is completely stepping into that swing, and I just think that is an unbelievably cool look. The main thing for me that lets this down is actually the antenna on the backpack, and I get that it's a stylistic choice and to show the infiltrating, secretive nature of the Alpha Legion, but just on a personal level, I really don't like that style of backpack, and I think it would be much cooler with just a regular standard one instead. That being said, you can of course just model him that way, and if I was to collect an Alpha Legion force, I think that's what I would probably do. But overall, I adore the scheme, I love the helmet, the sword, the pose, it's all just fantastic. Coming in at number 3, we have another relatively newish model, the Wordbearers Praetor. Now this model is just mind-blowing. I absolutely adore the bare head option. The lines of markings and tattoos, the anger and sort of grim determination in his face and the roaring open mouth just really make this model for me. He absolutely looks like the crazed zealous word bearers that we know from the Heresy series, and I just love the runes and the symbology that covers his entire suit of armor, alongside the open book across his waist, which just really sells him to me as 100% a word bearer. The whole thing just comes together and really tells you pretty much everything you need to know about him, even if you saw this model without any paint on. And I do think that apart from maybe one other model that we are still yet to see in this list, he is one of the few models in the game where you could just look at the bare resin kit without any paint on it at all, or any of the Legion specific symbols, and be 100% certain of knowing which Legion it was meant to belong to. I love his backpack with that flame-esque symbology on top, as well as his really unique and fantastically stylish power sword with that almost coffin-like hilt leading into the blade. It's just all round a genuinely gorgeous model, and one that, as I said, really does encapsulate the feel of the word bearers. So now we're down to the final two, and if you remember the picture of the start of the video, all we've got left is the Night Lords and their hated enemies, and my favorite Legion, the Dark Angels. So who is gonna be the winner? Well, in the number 2 spot of my favorite Legion Praetor, it's the Dark Angels. Yep, for once they are not in the number 1 spot for me. And it makes me incredibly sad because I do 100% love this model so much. It's just everything I envision when I think about a Dark Angels character, whether you look at the helmeted option with the gorgeous winged motif and the very knightly faceplate, or the grim, stubborn look on the bare head. It's just every inch a Dark Angel. I love the cape and the way that it wraps up around the front over his chest piece to give that more cloak-like look which the Dark Angels are known for. I love the relatively simple but very Dark Angels design of the blade, which is indented towards the end leading into the arrowhead edge. And of course, we can't neglect to talk about the honestly glorious Storm Shield, which just looks 100% like something you would expect to find on a medieval knight, and still manages to fit in that Dark Angel's winged motif yet again for good measure. He is just from top to bottom a medieval knight, and that kind of aesthetic is one which I just love so much for the Dark Angels. It's like seeing a hero that's ridden out on his horse, clad head to toe in thick metal armor, ready to just absolutely destroy all evil before him. And that, to me, is everything the Dark Angels are about. But of course, for every good guy, there needs to be a bad guy. And at the number 1 spot, we have that evil incarnate in the Night Lord's Praetor. And I know a lot of people may disagree with me on this one, but I'll be honest, this model is just pure evil. He's got such a good mix of cold chainmail across his armor, the blood red of the bat wings across his chest, and that genuinely murderous, terrifying chainglaive, which, I'll be honest, is quite possibly one of my favorite weapons in the entirety of Warhammer. And you top it all off with that almost bone white skin, scarred and ruined, and, you know, credit to the painter of this mini, a truly crazed, malicious look in his eyes as you stare at him. It's all topped off by the patches of human flesh wrapped around his legs and acting as his own twisted version of the knight's banner on the top of his backpack. And on the topic of that, his backpack alone is a freaking jump pack, and it just adds so much to the model, giving it not only this much more big, imposing, large profile, but also, I think, adding to that grotesque, almost hunched back look of the model. He looks everything the Dark Angel's knight isn't: evil, hunched over, crazed, and just an absolute mishmash of skin and bones and steel, and I absolutely love it. I will say he loses quite a bit of his luster, I think, if you use the helmeted option, as I think that is what makes this mini so fantastic. You know, what really captures your eye is that pure bone white skin that looks like he's been kept in darkness his whole life, knowing, you know, nothing but death and murder and rage. So I would 100% say this may well drop a place or two in my list if he did only have the helmeted option, but I still think that the overall look, the jump pack, the flayed skin, his chain glaive, and the trophies and the skull littered across his armor really does make him just the most menacing, cool looking Praetor model in the entire Heresy range. So that is my list of the Horus Heresy Praetors so far, at least. There are, as I said, some Terminator ones, which I will probably cover in another video because I like talking about my favorite models. It's always a fun little video to put out there and get your guys' opinion and feedback as well. So do let me know which your favorite is, or if you have a list, let me know your top 5. I would love to see your favorites down to your least favorites and why you think some of them are better than others. Thanks again for watching this video, and I do hope you like it. If you do, let me know because I am happy to do more of these sort of lists and talking about my favorite models or my least favorite models as well. And as always, please do leave a like and subscribe for more general Warhammer content from me. But until next time, I will catch you later, guys.